Right now, there's a good chance a fan is running near you. It's officially one of the hottest stretches ever recorded. And here's what nobody says out loud. Under the right conditions, that fan isn't cooling you down. It's speeding up the thing that could kill you, not metaphorically. Past a specific measurable line, moving air stops removing heat from your skin and starts adding it, and that line has already been crossed on real weather stations, in real cities, more than once. This is about a number almost nobody's heard of: wet bulb temperature, a hard physical limit the human body cannot negotiate with. Start with how your body actually cools itself. The obvious answer is sweating. That's not quite right. Sweat sitting on skin does nothing by itself. The real mechanism is evaporation. Liquid turning to vapor pulls heat away with it. Sweat is just the delivery truck. Your body makes heat constantly just by being alive, roughly 80 to 100 watts at rest, past 600 during hard exercise. All of it has to leave through evaporation off your skin. Cut off that exit, and the heat has nowhere to go. That's why humid days feel worse than dry ones at the same temperature. In humid air, the atmosphere is already saturated, and sweat just sits there. Meteorologists figured out how to measure this over 200 years ago. Wrap a thermometer's tip in wet cloth and expose it to air. As the water evaporates, it cools the thermometer, and that reading, the wet bulb temperature, tells you how well evaporation is working, not just how hot it is. And it has a hard ceiling, 35 degrees Celsius, wet bulb. Above it, the body can't sustain itself. Core temperature is around 37 degrees. For heat to leave, the air has to be able to accept it. At a wet bulb reading of 35, the air is so hot and saturated that evaporation off the skin drops to nearly zero. The body keeps making heat with nowhere for it to go. Core temperature climbs uncontrollably. Heat stroke, organ failure, death follow. This is where the fan flips from ally to threat. At moderate heat, it helps by speeding up evaporation. But once air temperature climbs past your skin temperature, around 35 degrees, the fan can't restart evaporation. There's no room left for it. Instead, it's blowing air hotter than you are directly onto your skin. You start absorbing heat from the airflow. The fan becomes a convection heater aimed at your body. Studies on elderly people, whose bodies compensate poorly under heat stress, have measured fans raising core temperature instead of lowering it. For years, scientists assumed a sustained 35-degree wet bulb reading was a future problem. They were wrong. A 2020 study in Science Advances found the threshold had already been hit at Jacobabad, Pakistan, and Ras Al Khaimah, UAE, briefly, multiple times, going back to 1987. Climate models predicted this wouldn't happen until mid-century. It happened decades early. A close call: Bandar-e-Mashhar, Iran, July 2015, 46 degrees air temperature, a wet bulb reading of about 34.6, a hair's width from the limit. The combined heat index that day topped 74 degrees Celsius, the second highest ever recorded on Earth. But here's the catch: 35 degrees is the limit for a young, healthy adult at rest in a lab. Real life isn't that. For most people, dangerous heat stress starts closer to 28 degrees wet bulb. That reframes who's actually at risk: not someone in an air-conditioned office, but farm workers in India and Pakistan, construction crews in the Gulf, elderly people in unair-conditioned apartments during a sudden heat wave, which is exactly what killed an estimated 70,000 people across Europe in 2003 in conditions nowhere near 35 degrees. Which brings this back to the fan. It isn't dangerous by itself. What's dangerous is that the conditions where it stops helping and starts hurting already exist on this planet and are becoming more common. 35 degrees wet bulb, that's the wall. Below it, the body can fight. Above it, nothing changes the outcome. Not water, not shade, not a fan. So next time it's hot and your hand reaches for that fan, you'll know exactly what it can do and what it can't. For a long time, scientists assumed a sustained 35-degree wet bulb reading was a future problem, a line humanity hadn't crossed yet. That turned out to be wrong. A 2020 study in the journal Science Advances, digging through decades of weather station records, found the threshold had already been hit, not close to, but actually reached, at two specific locations, Jacobabad, Pakistan, and Ras Al Khaimah in the United Arab Emirates. Both briefly crossed 35 degrees wet bulb on multiple occasions going back to 1987, with further instances in 1995, 2005, 2009, 2010, and 2012. Climate models had projected the first such event wouldn't arrive until roughly the middle of this century. It happened decades early and almost nobody noticed. A close call that fell just short of the line, Bandar-e-Mash'ar, Iran, July 2015, air temperature 46 degrees, dew point 32 degrees, a wet bulb reading of about 34.6, a hair's width from the physiological limit. The combined heat index that day topped 74 degrees Celsius, the second highest ever recorded on Earth. People weren't watching this from a lab, they were living there, working outside, in it. And these events are becoming more frequent every year, but the 35-degree figure comes with a catch that rarely gets mentioned. 35 degrees wet bulb is the absolute physiological limit for a young, healthy adult at rest in a lab under ideal conditions. Real life isn't that. Once you account for age, underlying health, physical exertion, and access to shade, dangerous heat stress for most people actually begins closer to 28 degrees wet bulb. For elderly people, that line sits even lower. For someone doing manual labor outdoors, the body is already generating extra heat it has to shed, so the point where it starts losing that fight arrives sooner. That reframes who's actually at risk. It isn't someone sitting in an air-conditioned office watching a thermometer out of curiosity. It's agricultural workers across India and Pakistan. It's construction crews across the Gulf. It's elderly people in unair-conditioned European apartments during a sudden heat wave, which is exactly what killed an estimated 70,000 people across Europe in 2003 in conditions that never came close to the 35-degree line. 35 is where survival becomes impossible for anyone. But the range between 28 and 35 is where most heat deaths actually happen. And we're spending more time inside that range every year, which brings this back to the fan. It isn't dangerous by itself. What's dangerous is that the conditions under which it stops helping and starts hurting already exist on this planet, are becoming more common and are almost never discussed. We talk about air temperature, about feels like, about staying hydrated, but the actual physical ceiling, the number that tells you whether your body's cooling system can even function, rarely makes the news. 35 degrees wet bulb, that's the wall. Below it, the body can still fight. Above it, no amount of water, no shade, no fan changes the outcome. The physics simply close the door, and the uncomfortable truth is that parts of the world are already touching that wall. More will reach it, and billions of people living there have no access to the one thing that reliably works past the threshold: air conditioning. So next time it's hot, and right now it's hot almost everywhere, and your hand reaches for that fan, you'll know exactly what it can do and what it can't. And why sometimes the thing you reach for to save yourself is the thing that makes it worse.